What was that?
I don't even know what you're doing.
What? I made a noise with my mouth.
Yeah, why?
You don't just every now and then just make weird noises like.
No. Okay.
I do to my dog, maybe.
Oh well, I mean, I just do it naturally, but you know, whatever.
Okay. So we're gonna do intro. Okay, so let's end on standard this time. So we'll do intro. We'll talk about the rules changes.
Wait, there's rules changes?
Yes. So
Ooh.
basically, the too long didn't read is Tabernacle and Summoner's Pact are now triggers that like don't fuck you anymore. So like if you like draw your card and your opponent's like we're supposed to pay for this Tabernacle trigger, you call a judge and you're like, oh, you know, I missed it, and they just put it on the stack and you can pay for it. And
Mikey.
pact is something like if you draw your pact, if you like draw after your pact, you know, they call a judge and the judge asks the opponent if they want to put the Summoner's Pact on the stack. So now like all the triggers work the same as every other trigger in Magic.
Oh.
They also changed it, so I forget where it was. I posted it in the Nova chat. There was like some rule that I really liked. I'm gonna look it up right now because I really liked it. Where is it? I can't find it.
What's up, Trudon? How's it going?
Okay, that's why.
Oh, we're live.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're live. Okay, if a player says go, or otherwise passes the turn and time is called while the opponent is doing something in end step or not yet untapping, the opponent gets turn 0. So like it's basically removing the incentive that people can run out the clock after players pass a turn by holding off on tapping.
Mm-hmm.
So like, basically as soon as they say go, like it's the other person.
It just adds a turn. Yeah, it just adds a turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
so
my
you can
God.
no longer be like, I'm thinking during.
Cannon, how come I'm half in Rudy's screen?
What?
I'm half in Rudy's screen.
Oh, you are a little bit of my screen.
What happened
Yeah,
there?
that's tough, right?
What
When
do
did
you
that
do?
happen? I didn't do
And
anything.
you can see the bleach in my hallway. It's right next to Rudy.
That's really weird. Hold on.
Rudy, if you're thirsty.
That's really
Yeah,
weird. I didn't move it at all.
If you could go ahead and pass me some water, bud.
Let me just hang on. I gotta figure out how I can hang on. I'm grabbing.
What's up, buddy? Good evening.
Is he trying to grab? Is that a bottle of bleach?
That is a bottle of bleach just for you. Hang on, let me just pick this up and I'm trying to grab it.
Okay, I'll try to move a little bit closer to the to my side of the over here. All right, so we'll talk about KCI ban first. KCI ban, rule changes. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we get into standard after that?
How's it going, Jen?
Jen. Hallway tour. Oh yeah, we do have a lot of hallways. My house is very yellow. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because my walls are yellow. They're like a mustard. It's like I'm the mustard man.
All right, it's kind of.
It's for your light, honestly.
Yeah, also that.
All right. Okay, so intro. We'll talk about the ban list. We'll talk about the rules changes, and then we'll just talk about standard, and that should probably eat up the hour.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Are we gonna talk about our explorations in the standard? Because I have a whole Discord full of info that I gotta spew.
I will murder you. You're not going to do this to me again, Brad Carpenter.
And would you like some deck lists?
Sure.
They're all bad anyway. You don't want them.
All right. I hate you so much, Brad. All right. So we'll just talk about like what we think. Like so this way, because like I know like Tana doesn't want to give away anything, and I know like I don't want to give away.
I don't mind talking about like what I think overall of standard.
Yeah,
I'm just not
yeah,
gonna say
that's
the
what-
deck list that we're playing or something,
Yeah,
which we don't even know
that's
yet.
what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm going to talk about like we can just talk about like what the pillars of the standard format are and what cards we're excited to see played.
Mikey, I'm not talking about football.
Yo,
Not
I
after
can't
that
wait
game.
to talk about the biggest disappointment of Tannen's weekend.
We were fucking robbed, dude. It was ridiculous.
Everyone knows what Sultai Tana.
Yeah.
Tana's not a Sultai kind of guy.
I won a pizza key recently with the Sultai deck, and it was like pretty popular.
Oh yeah, J-Tech, you right. Go
Wait,
Pats.
wasn't that, like,
Pats
months
are owning.
ago?
It was like at least a year ago, if not more. It's when we both still wrote for that other site. What was it called? What was the name of that site, Rudy?
Which one?
The one that we both wrote for.
Oh, MTG Card Market?
Yeah, Card Market. I couldn't remember it. Yeah.
Do I look like a hoodlum if I put my hood up?
Oh, yes.
You got the Eminem look. No, you actually got to look like a Obi-Wan Kenobi thing going on.
Yeah,
No,
but
that's giving Brad way too much like credit and clout. What's gonna happen in Indy? I don't know what's gonna happen. JTech, if you know what's gonna happen in Indy,
I'm gonna win,
let us know. That would be great.
and then I'm never gonna shut up about it.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Like the first open is just like, yeah, you want an open, that's great. But when you win your second and third opens, it's like, oh my god, I can't shut up.
Wow. Did you
Brad,
hear
what was
that,
it?
Rudy?
What was it like the first time you played on the Pro Tour?
The first time I played
I've-
on the Pro Tour?
I've never tried to play on a pro tour.
Sure.
They're probably, besides the Players Championship, they're the coolest tournaments that I've ever played in.
What was it? Did you feel a lot of extra stress the first time you top 8 at a Grand Prix? How did that feel?
With this one Grand Prix Tuffy in 1927.
Whoa! This is
it,
not
yo.
about Tannen. This is not about Tannen. And I top 8 at a Grand Prix in 1928, so don't add us.
Yeah.
When did you? When was your Grand Prix top 8, Rudy?
Aww.
No, but seriously, mine was in what? Like, mine was in what? Like
2007.
2007, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Grand Prix Daytona.
It's like
Yeah.
insane too because your top 8 was so stacked.
Yeah. Did you look at the top? Just go, like, if you're ever really bored, just like Google that Grand Prix and look at the top 32. It's like, but all the tournaments were like that back in the day. They were way more dense because they were a little bit smaller. Like that was only like an 800 or 900 person Grand Prix or whatever.
Still, they didn't have the if you tied with 64th place, you got to go.
Yeah.
Literally, you just had top 64 got
Yep.
to move on.
Yeah, my first Grand Prix that I ever played in, I went 7-2 with no buys and finished like 65th or whatever. What was the format, Jen? It was triple Lorwyn. Like, it was the first time I'd ever cast a Planeswalker in my life. Was in that tournament. I had literally never cast a Planeswalker before. I knew how they worked or
Which
whatever.
Planeswalker?
I had Jason in my seal deck, but blue was the only color I didn't play. I had Garrick in my first draft deck, and it was insane. And then I had Chandra in my second draft deck, and it was insane. And I did not have a Planeswalker in the top 8.
Wow.
But I had a card that was
Nice.
like, Manfield beat me in the semifinals, but it was the actual finals. Like, we knew whoever won that was probably going to beat Paulo in the finals. Like, I passed him his entire deck, and it was not very good. It was fine. It's just like it wasn't going to beat me or Seth having a decent draw.
Oh god, you had
And-
Profane Command in the top 8.
Yeah, that's what I lost to. Me and Seth had the same deck, except he had Profane Command, and I did not.
Oh.
Also, the guy that did the coverage told me afterwards that Seth me in both games. Like, literally, his opening hand would be like black cards, and he'd have like a forest and a plains, and he would just keep it and draw like a swamp or whatever, like every time. And I was like, I didn't want to know that. Like, I didn't want to know that he, or whatever.
Why would he tell you that?
Yeah, like, why would you tell me that or whatever? But, yeah. I had some like pretty insane stuff happen. Like, I had to win my last round to make it in the top 8 because I had an unintentional draw in day 2. Like, I had to literally get lucky not to lose a round. Like, I had to top deck just to stay alive, and I did. There was a game that's in a feature match, but this is back when they didn't have cameras. Like, they didn't record this, so it was all by text. I'm trying to remember this. So I'm trying to remember exactly how this worked out. My opponent, like, traded creatures with me. One of his was a goblin. He played a wart, the rare that would, like, get back a goblin card or whatever. So he played wart. So I played Chandra, killed his wart. He played, like, a big creature and, like, attacked my Chandra. I played Sword of Temptation, taking his big creature. He like played a land, said go. I untapped, like played a land. I went to attack with this big creature. He's like, all right, kill your Sword of Temptation, because I only had like one card in my hand, and I Cryptic Commanded. So I literally went like Chandra into Sword of Temptation into Cryptic Command in limited or whatever. And my deck had like 7 rares in it or something like that. My deck was good, and
Yeah,
I got
also-
cut in pack 2. Like, I was mono blue in pack 1. I literally took 11 straight blue cards or whatever in pack 1, and the guy to my left ended up in blue. I was pretty upset because my deck should have been just like the grossest thing you've ever seen or whatever, but it was fine. I ended up like playing against him, and thank God. I was like, please just pair me against this guy, and I got paired against him, so I got to like just crush him very easily. And then it was pretty crazy. So I was mono blue, and I opened Shriekmaw in pack 2 and passed it.
What did you take?
Solar Representation.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty.
I first picked Cryptic Command, and I took Solar Representation in pack 2. And then in the first draft, I got really lucky too. Like, I opened Garrick in pack 1, had like a really good green deck, and then I opened Imperial Magistrate, I think is the name of the card, in pack 3, which was like the other best green rare in the set. That card was not beatable. It's the one that like put +1/+1 counters on creatures equal to like the elves you controlled or whatever, or something like that.
Yep.
And it was like an elf itself. If you ever activated it like more than once in a game, they could not win. Like,
That format was so good.
yeah, I also like I had actually never played like physically played the format going into the Grand Prix, but like I knew it was good, and like I had a plan. Like my plan was I didn't want to play white the entire weekend if I could avoid it because I thought white was really bad. But my seal deck had like I think one white card in it. I think I played what's the card that like you pay X and it makes all your creatures X and it's like it's a changeling.
Oh, Mirror Entity.
Yeah, I had Mirror Entity with like I think I had 3 Vivid Lands in my deck plus I had Elvish Harbinger. So Elvish Harbinger puts it on top of your deck plus it can cast it because that card can tap for any mana. So it's like a little mini combo. And then I never had a white card in any of my other decks because like I would almost probably like because like the thing is like when you're white you never got your best cards. Like people did not pass you Oblivion Ring and stuff. You know, like they would just take it and play it with Vivid Lands. And like if you were the only Kithkin drafter at the table, it was maybe good, but like that hadn't gotten really figured out yet. And then like blues commons were just so much better than like everything else. Like I would take Silvergale Dowser over like 90 something % of the cards in the format. Like there was like a couple of rares I would not have taken it over. But
Merfolk was actually pretty dope. Was that that was the Summon the School format, right?
yeah, if you could get that deck, yeah. But you had to be like the only person drafting Merfolk. Otherwise your deck was like really bad if you didn't have Summon the School. You know what I mean? Like you just had like Papperfin Rascals. And that's what ended up happening. The guy to my left that was also in blue, he first picked a Mirror Regery, you know, the Blue Lord or whatever, the Merfolk Lord. And then like my packs, I think I went like Cryptic Command, Silvergirl Dowser, and I was like, dude, I have the best deck at the table, like hands down. But those packs had like Papperfin Rascals in them, so he was like, oh look, I'm like doing the thing, you know, and I'm like that's not like your second and third picking like 10th pick cards, you know, like I understand like you're being aggressive and forceful, but it wasn't good, you know what I mean? So or Papperfin Rascal, would I say Paperfin Rascal? It would have been Papperfin Rascal.
Papper.
I said Papper, okay, yeah, I'll say yeah. So yeah, I remember my seal deck being very good. I had like the green command. What's the name of that one?
Primal Command.
Yeah, Primal Command, and I almost always got the Witch, the Tree Folk Witch. That like if you played a Tree Folk spell, it nameless inversioned.
Thorntooth Witch.
What's that?
Thorntooth Witch.
Yeah, something like that. And I just had a bunch of like Tree Folk spells in my deck. Plus, I had like nameless inversion and stuff. So like I would just play it, people wouldn't kill it, and you'd be like, all right, nameless inversion, you're bored. You know, you just like kill your entire board because like it all just like. You know, you just be like, all right, like put your land on top of your deck. I'll gain 7 or something just to make sure that like you didn't lose somehow. And like I main decked Root Grapple when most people didn't even play that card in the format. It was just busted like all day long. And it's like not a card that's good. Huh?
That card fucks. It draws a card.
It draws a card if you have a Tree Folk, but like I had enough, and then like it just kills Oblivion Rings. And every single person, if you had an Oblivion Ring in your pile, it was in your deck. You know what I mean? Like your deck could cast
Vivid Lands.
Yeah, your deck could just cast it. Like so I had like
that format, like you could go like 5 colors so easily when it like there wasn't like fixing or whatever, like specified archetypes or something. It was just like, yeah, there's just like these Vivid Lands that are just so fucking busted.
Yeah, like people talked about, they're like, what was the best uncommon in the set? That was like one of the questions in top 8, and I was like, it's Shriekmaw, but like you could make an argument that just the Vivid Lands are the best uncommons or whatever.
Yeah, they ended up dominating Standard too.
Yeah, I played that deck or whatever, like going like before, because like here's the thing, I played like up until then, and then like I kind of retired, and then I'd never like after that I didn't play again for a long time. Like I top 8'd a Grand Prix in that format, and then when the next draft set got added, which was like what, Shadowmoor?
No, next set would have been Morningtide.
Oh, so Morningtide and then whatever.
Way worse.
Yeah, I literally never played a game with those cards. Like I had to look through the set the other day. I could maybe tell you like 3 cards in that set. So I was just like, yeah, I was just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Jeez, you're owning. All right, are we all set up? Do we know what we're talking about?
Yeah, I posted everything.
Hmm.
So.
Oh, I don't know. Man.
That's actually really interesting, Vincer, by the way. You sure did glam it up in 12 years. Yeah, that is the only photo of, that's like the latest photo of me I can find where I don't look the same. Like, if you look at my top 8 photo, it's horrific. Also, I was like in a bad spot kind of there. I had like just broken up with the girl that I dated for like 4 years. Then it was like my birthday. I was like drinking a decent bit, and like I just like wasn't very happy at the time either. I probably was like, I weigh about like 160 now. I probably was like 135 pounds or something like that, or 130 pounds. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I was not like, it wasn't like an unhealthy 130 pounds. Just like that was before I started like really working on my health, started eating healthier. Like that's back when I was eating Taco Bell a ton and stuff. Like I think I had stopped drinking soda at that point, but I'm not sure. But I was eating fast food and like not taking care of myself and stuff. Remind me to bring you a walker at Dallas, sure.
Jesus.
So
As long as it's a wild growth one.
we should get started, but before we get
Sure.
started, if there's anybody in the chat right now who hasn't joined our Discord and you are very much interested in seeing Danon's top 8 picture, you should join our Discord.
Can you guys see the stream?
I wonder if
Yeah.
Can you see the picture? Brad, look at our Discord.
Well, you're not sharing it. We have to look at your actual stream.
Oh, you look at the stream, Brad.
Oh yeah. I don't know if that's better or worse than mine. Mine's pretty rough.
Is it up?
Oh,
on the-
your first GP top 8, Brad?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen these. Okay, we'll talk about it on the show, and we'll get the post with the show.
No, it's fine. All right, ready? I just start recording. Who's doing the intro?
I'll do it.
Okay. We'll start in 5,
Yay.
4, 3, 2.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grinders Podcast. I'm Tannen Grace, as always. I'm joined by Bradley Carpenter, Rudy Brixa, and we got a special guest tonight. She's sitting on my lap. My dog's actually in the room, so hopefully she doesn't get too frisky with the mic. So
Yeah, so this time, if you hear animal sounds, it's probably coming from an actual animal and not Brad this time.
Wow, that is rude.
So the wife isn't home right now, and if I close the door to my office and she hears me talking in here, she will sit outside the door and just make noise until I go open the door. So I have to let her in. So anyway,
All right.
how was your boys' weekends?
It was all right. It's unfortunate because The Punisher just came out, and I haven't really got a chance to sit and watch it just yet. I've only seen the first couple of episodes. So far, I'm loving it. I'm a big fan so far of everything that's happened in the first few episodes. I don't want to spoil anything. We can definitely talk about it next week or the week after, I'm sure, because we'll all finish it by then. You don't like Punisher, Tannen?
So I'm like 6 or 7 episodes in, and it has the same problem that most Netflix shows have on Marvel. Like they start shows like just so strong, and then they kind of like drag for like an episode or two. But I find myself checking my phone more often than I normally would in one of these episodes. It's fine. I don't think it's bad or anything like that. It's just like there's so much filler in my opinion, but it's fine. I do think the show is very good.
You feel like there's that much filler going on?
Maybe
like, honestly,
maybe it's just me.
So it's like weird where like I do think it started off amazingly strong. One issue I have is like rather than it being one straightforward plot,
There's like
throughout the whole
multiple.
thing,
Yeah.
they like, and they did this with Daredevil and like even Iron Fist to some extent, where like they try to have like 2 villains and then they like bring back an old villain. You're just like, all right, man, like can't we just like out with the old, like in with the new big bad guy, and like let's focus on them.
That was like one of the problems people had with season 2 of Daredevil is like you're like, wait, I don't even know what's going on. You're like, and then you go down a storyline for like an hour and a half of the show, and then all of a sudden you go back and you're like, oh yeah, that's going on too, and it's like I pride myself on being like remotely intelligent, but so your attention span can only go so long, especially like I watch this at night when I'm in bed and I'm pretty tired, and sometimes I kind of like forget what's going. You know what I mean? Like it just like maybe my attention span isn't what it used to be, and I'm like kind of zoning out a little more. So maybe I just need to like pay attention more when I'm watching the show. Like try to be a little more actively engaged in it, and it's probably going to be fine.
That's kind of interesting. So far, it's only looked to me like there's 2 storylines, kind of.
Yeah, there's only really 2 main ones. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's like some sub stuff going on. There's like a lot of layers to the season.
Okay, well, no, I'm really excited to watch. I think if Marvel does one thing well is that they're very good at like building all these different layers and all these different stories that kind of like weave into each other, like as seasons go on and shows go on, and they start to connect a lot of different dots. So I think that's really awesome.
I think
Personally-
I think it's important that we do appreciate it though, because this is probably the last season.
Oh, it is definitely the
Yeah.
last season.
Yeah.
They've canceled Punisher. We don't know what's going to go on.
Oh, wait, they actually canceled Punisher?
No, he meant the other ones. They haven't officially announced that this.
I'm pretty sure Punisher is going to be announced as canceled sometime very soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably one more season of Jessica Jones, and then they'll cancel that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the actor said he's already at peace with it.
Yeah, my guess is that there's Jessica Jones and possibly a second season of Defender, because I know the second season of Defenders was greenlit, but I don't know anything else past that. I mean, just because it's greenlit doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
So we'll find out at some point what's going on. But anyway, that's really all I did. Unfortunately, there wasn't really a lot to do last weekend, unless you're a big fan of pre-releasing, which I'm not a big fan of pre-releasing. It's something that we talked about on the show. Limited's not really my thing, and with the Star City Games tour set up the way that it is, there's no room for limited. It's just basically constructed all the way. But that's okay. So I didn't really get to pre-release. Did either of you guys?
I did not.
I didn't play, but I was at one all day.
Okay. Well, that's fair. But we also got some exciting news, and we have a bunch of exciting news. So we're just going to start breaking into the news, and we're going to go from there, because I think we had kind of nice and chill weekends for once, and and that's kind of nice, right? It's kind of nice to have a chill weekend. I know a lot of times we're kind of get up and go everywhere, and we're always trying to do something.
Yeah, I've had a rough last week and a half. I had something happen in my personal life that's been difficult to deal with, and then I said we weren't going to bring it up, but the Saints game was really disappointing this weekend. We won't get into why. I'm not gonna get into why, but it's it just sucks to have that happen. You know what I mean? You feel, even as just a fan, I know I'm not on the team, but even as just a fan, you feel like something was taken from you. So whatever.
That's pretty reasonable,
That's
Tannen.
unfortunate.
Do
Now you know how I felt when Eli Manning beat Tom Brady in both Super Bowls when the team was unbeatable.
It's not even remotely the same thing though.
It's the same thing.
Okay, I the sentiment I get is the same, but okay.
Anyway, so we have something that we haven't had in a while. We're not going to have for another 5 weeks. So right now this is episode 65. So the next time we talk about this subject, it'll be episode 70, 71, around there. There was a ban list.
Yeah.
And that's kind of exciting, because sometimes things don't change, but this time something did.
Thank God.
Splinter Twin was unbanned. Stoneforge Mystic was unbanned.
Get out of here. It's not happening.
All right.
Tron was banned.
Get out of here.
Tannen.
I would just play another deck. It's not like I'm emotionally attached. I like winning. I would just play a good deck.
Okay. Anyway, so no, none of those things happened. Brad, what actually happened on the ban list?
The 4-mana artifact card in which you can sacrifice an artifact and add 2 mana to your mana pool. I believe it is known as KCI, or Crook Clan Ironworks. Was ousted from the format.
I like to believe. Hold on, that somewhere, I think he's in Denver or whatever. That Matt Nass woke up this morning, right, and did his morning routine, went to the bathroom, made a coffee or whatever, and then there was just this moment where he's sitting there, sipping his coffee, and he just kind of looks up to the sky a little bit. He's like, I have felt a great disturbance in the force. And he's he just knows.
Actually, that's what's kind of funny is, I don't know if you looked on Twitter, but I believe it was Paulo Vitor Damarosa who tweeted, and he was like, I told Matt when he was in the shower that KCI got banned, and he turned the shower off, and all you heard was him yelling no.
It's like the Darth Vader note, just no.
Yeah. But that's kind of great. I mean, Matt's obviously had a lot of success with it.
Just a bit.
just a bit. He's won 2 GPs and top aided a third. with the same deck.
Fourth. I think it's fourth.
He made 4.
Yeah, he had 4 GP top 8s, 2 wins.
That's
that is
absurd.
Still an impressive thing, and I believe that he actually won the first 2 GPs that he played with the deck as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, he top aided in Phoenix. Then he won Vegas, won the next one, and then just recently top aided.
So he won 2 in a row. I mean, winning 2 in a row with KCI.
It was absurd.
Extraordinarily impressive by any stretch. But Brad, did KCI need to get banned?
Yes, absolutely. That card is it doesn't do good things.
Okay, so my next question to you is, where do you see the format going now that KCI is banned?
I weirdly think that Shadow gets slightly worse because I really like that matchup, and I think Burn also gets a lot better. And I think the Phoenix decks are probably gonna run rampant. I think that's it. Like I don't know what like. There's no combo deck, right? That like really sits at like how good KCI was. There's no combo deck that really matches that. So it's not like that hole's gonna be filled up. It's just like, I guess the question is like, what decks was KCI, or what decks were pushed out of the meta by KCI, right?
Yeah, I think you're gonna see a pretty big uptick in like Dredge. I think that deck's gonna like make a little bit of a comeback and be a bigger player. You talked about how like there's no combo deck that sits at that, so like I don't think Storm is gonna all of a sudden rise up and take its spot because it's definitely not as fast as KCI was on consistently. So I definitely agree with like everything you're saying, and it does feel weird to say that like you think that like Shadow gets worse, but with KCI gone, I think that like some of the creature decks start to get a little bit better, right? And that's not good for Shadow because like Shadow has sometimes had some problems with decks like humans and stuff in the past. So like if those decks become more playable again, then yeah, like you said, the area gets a little more hostile towards Shadow. So someone just talked about this, like maybe decks like Hollow One, Humans, Amulet. Like Amulet's probably gonna have a decent upbringing. Like I think a lot of people who are like used to playing a deck like KCI might gravitate towards something like Amulet. Another weird artifact land central kind of deck.
So, kind of an interesting thing. I actually think one deck actually gets like a massive boost from this ban, and I think that's the Overgrown Tomb decks. I think the Overgrown Tomb decks actually just got significantly better because
Okay.
the one thing that's good about all the Overgrown Tomb decks, the Juns and the Black Greens, is that they're very good against a lot of these creature decks. And they also have a lot of cards that line up very well against Arclight Phoenix. Inquisition's not terrible. Fatal Push is good. Scavenging News is great. I don't think Kalitas is playable, so don't put that in your deck. But like Maelstrom Pulse is going to be really good. Assassin's Trophy is going to be great. You have like a lot of these really good tools to beat a lot of what's going on in the format. And then sideboard, you get cards like Grafdigger's Cage, cards like Nile Spellbomb, Surgical Still, Fulminator Mage. You have all these really powerful tools in your sideboard to be able to just interact favorably with pretty much every deck in the format. Is something that we really like to say a lot, about these Jund style decks, is that they feel like they're 50% against the field, but it hasn't really felt like that in a while.
Right.
Now it does. Now it really does. Now the KCI's gone. The format's going to, as you said, I do agree with you, it's going to start moving towards creature-based decks. There's going to be a lot more removal. And if there's a deck that's going to be really good against, these kind of slower strategies, it's probably the Jund decks. So I'm probably going to start looking into like playing a deck like Jund or Black Green, because I think that deck might be really good. I think there also are, some decks that get worse. I think Spirits might get a tiny bit worse right now because it tried to boast like those really good slow matchups, and Humans is like just much better at fighting through everything.
Yeah.
I just want to say a moment of silence for Rudy's future modern endeavors in which he enters with an Overgrown Tomb strategy.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah,
fine.
all I'm saying is
your stupid shadow strategy.
all I'm hearing is like you're talking about like Overgrown Tomb decks getting better, and that's a possibility, and they start getting popular again. That's an interesting thing because I do think you can tune those decks to start beating the Phoenix decks. Like if you start having like really good draws of Surgicals and Scavenging Oozes and stuff like that, you can do enough. Like they can kill a thing in the ice. You know what I mean? Like they can compete on the level that some of these decks need to be able to compete upon. But I love hearing this, by the way, because the almighty Karn Father just loves eating up Overgrown Tombs. I don't know if you've known this in the past, but boy, do I like seeing that land in play.
I'm sure you do. I don't know. I mean, I want to like revisit it now that Assassin's Trophy is a card and Maelstrom Pulse.
It's definitely better for you than it was in the past.
Yeah. That's really like where I'm going.
I'm being
for it. I'm not
hyperbolic,
gonna,
obviously.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like Overgrown Tombs
You're
is
still
like,
a dog.
Oh my God. Yeah. Fuck Tron. I can never lose to Tron because
Yeah.
I have a Assassin's Trophy. But that's just not how Magic works. But the fact that you have access to this like 2-mana card that interacts like on a bunch of different levels, I think is just naturally good for the deck, and it makes the match a lot closer than it used to be.
Like I think I told you this in Baltimore, playing for 8-1 day one. In game 3, I played against Jund in the last round, and in game 3, I was on the play, he was on the draw. He mulliganed to 5, I kept 7, I got destroyed. Like I got browned. I didn't put a threat into play.
Yep. Yeah. And that's like obviously like the downside to Tron, right? Is just sometimes you just draw like a bunch of air.
Oh no, my hand was good. I kept 7. Like I'm not keeping a 7 that's like not doing something good. It's just like Inquisition, he like thought seized on 1 to take my threat or whatever, like trophied me on my like during my draw step or whatever on 2, and then he like fulminated me on 3 or whatever, and then I got like fulminated again on 4 or something. And I was like, all right, like I just can't beat this draw ever. Like I don't know what you want from me, man. You got it. Like
For sure. I also think another big winner of the KCI ban is actually Lightning Bolt. I think Lightning Bolt it's a lot better. Like if we're just like under the assumption that like creature decks are going to be reasonably well positioned, I think a card like Bolt just might be very well positioned.
You know what I'm a little upset about? I was going to play a sweet deck in the last Modern Open, and I ended up like not having time to really mess around with it before the Open, because I wanted to play it against what the top tier decks were at the time, including KCI. I wanted to play Bant Eldrazi, but with like 4 Thalia's main, and I really wanted to have, because the card hadn't been printed at the time, the last time I played this, I wanted the interaction come up between Eldrazi Displacer and Night of Autumn. And then
that's a nice one.
Yeah, and then the deck could just play like Rest in Pieces and Stony Silences, and you know what I mean? Like you just play 4 of each, and you're like, all right, let's go. And it had, so you're looking at 4 Thalia's main and 4 Thought-Knot Seer's main, and like infinite ways to cast Thought-Knot Seer on like turns 2 and 3, which are really important, and was like pretty good against things like Thought-Knot Seer and some of these decks that are important or whatever. And I still think the deck is playable and like okay. I don't know how good it is. It just matters like. I think you can make it just straight green white if you want. You might not even need the blue, but like, I don't know.
I mean, it definitely seems awesome. That's actually a really good idea. Now that you're talking about it, I'm actually now interested.
Yeah.
In trying.
The changes that I was going to make on it from like its initial shell is I've always hated, what's the 3/2 that replaces itself?
The Sky Spawner?
No, the 3/2. For 3 colorless. I literally just blanked on the name.
Oh, Eternal Scourge?
No, the 3/2. Eternal Scourge is a 3/3.
Oh yeah.
Matter Reshaper.
Matter Reshaper, yeah. I've always hated Matter Reshaper, and it's like you needed your clock to be faster, and that card is just poo-poo. So like I wanted to play maybe the Mimic as well, because like you could turn 1 a Mimic and then like just play anything on turn whatever, and you still have Smasher behind all of this, so like your clock is really fast while still being disruptive. Like Thalia into like Thought-Knot Seer into Smasher beats a lot of decks in Modern, and I mean a lot and stuff.
Yeah. You can tell I really know my Eldrazi.
I'm usually pretty good with the Eldrazi stuff because I've played a lot, but I just literally blanked on Matter Reshaper because I never play that card. Because when I started playing that deck, I remember the deck had like 4 in all of its list. I immediately played a game with it. I was like, I was actually teammates with Brad. I think you might remember this. And I remember putting it in the chat. I was like, this card is shit. I'm replacing it immediately. I just tried to replace it with anything.
Yeah, that's like pretty reasonable. I have another note for you guys that I think you might find pretty interesting. Do you know what the next deck that has the most amount of GP top 8s is after KCI?
Ooh, I know the next 2.
I don't actually know.
I know the next 2.
Right.
It's blue-white.
Go ahead. It is blue-white control.
Closely followed by Unplayable Jeskai.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So the John Rossums of the world are just licking their chops.
It's just hilarious to me that like these Holland Fountain decks just have the most amount of top 8s despite like just being terrible for so long, and maybe these kind of decks also get better as well. So I don't know. It's like kind of interesting. I'm sure Ben Nikolic is at home praying to his shrine of Teferi.
Yeah, I mean like so. Yeah, the blue-white decks, right? Like I think that they could still be in a good spot. It's like a deck that you could like kind of meld to where you want the format, and you don't have to, depending on what people are playing, you don't have to jam a bunch of artifact hate in your sideboard anymore. So now it like frees up some slots to maybe like clean up some other matchups, and there's not so much stress on your deck anymore where like you have to interact with everything you're doing plus find a clock. So like yeah, maybe those decks are just going to be good enough, because if creature decks are getting really popular again, blue-white and Jeskai can be pretty damn good in that field.
Yeah, it's definitely a reasonable point. So I think we all kind of agree KCI needed to go. We think the creature decks are going to start rising up, and then in response to that card, decks like Hollowed Fountain decks might get a little bit better. I personally believe that Overgrown Tomb decks get better. I know Brad doesn't agree, but Brad is just going to be really sad when I just trophy his.
He's gonna.
Wow, that's just not true.
Hold on, Brad. You could play Overgrown Tomb in Shadow.
I could.
Oh, good
That's
point,
true.
Good point. Good point.
I
Maybe
don't even need Shadows to beat Rudy. I could beat him with a ham sandwich.
All right,
I don't even
Osip.
like ham. But anyway, I said I don't even like ham, so that's kind of rude. Could you at least get me a sandwich that I would
Well,
enjoy?
now you're really gonna hate ham.
Oh God, dear Lord, you guys.
You know what's great is I get to work with Brad for like the next year. That's gonna be
Work is such a strong word.
Work
Brady.
with, yeah. I'm using quotations over here. Work with.
yeah.
I've been on the team
Well,
with
it's
Brad before.
Yeah, it's more like Brad just kind of sits there and goes, I don't like any of these decks. And then he goes, Andy J said your deck is fine, so I guess I'll play it. That's just
That never even happened.
it's just basically the way it works. So, another thing that happened, and this is actually kind of a big one. There were some rules changes that are happening. Tannen, what are the rules change, and how do you feel about them?
I did not read the required reading. I did not come to class prepared today, teacher. I'm sorry. I've been very busy today. I know that. Okay, well, I know.
If you would have asked me, I would have had the same
Okay, well,
answer.
I know like the short of it, like the TLDR version. Like I know you can't die to your own pact anymore. Like if you miss your pact trigger,
Sort of.
the game, yeah, it starts to interact in the way that other miss triggers have now. Your opponent is asked, "Would you like to put this trigger on the stack?" Which they're always going to say yes, and then they get a chance to kind of like back up and pay for it.
Right. So basically, the too long didn't read is cards like Tabernacle and the packs,
Right.
which create their own separate trigger, are no longer extraordinarily detrimental for you to miss. Now they are going to fall in line with the same as every other trigger, where if you were to miss it, you call a judge over. The judge can kind of put them back on the stack for you, and you go from there. So how do you both, Brad, Tannen, how do you feel about this rules change? Is this a rules change that you think is okay? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad?
I think it's fine. Like, it's not really detrimental to take away the fact that they lose the game. Like, I get some people are going to be like, oh, man, I'm going to miss my free win or whatever here. It does suck to take that away. I remember one of the first times they tried to do this, and they were like, you cannot miss a pack trigger. Like, you just can't do it or whatever. It's kind of sucks or whatever, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, like, the amount of games that you win per year to someone not paying their pack trigger goes down from, like, 0.25 to 0. And the only thing is like some people talk about it might be slightly abusable in some way to like possibly garner extra information, but like let's be real, that's just like almost never going to come up. Plus, I mean, there's not that many packs getting cast or whatever. It also leads to way less feel bad moments in Magic, whether the person forgets their triggers and dies because of it, or if someone just plays Tabernacle, says go, and like doesn't say anything, and the person untaps and draws, and they're like, oh, all your creatures are dead. And you're like, I didn't even see you play this card, like I've never seen this card before in my life, or whatever, in Legacy. So, less feel bad moments is great. I don't know how Brad feels about this.
I mean, I just picture like PTQ like grinders from yesteryear just being so upset that they can't get their FNM, FNM opponent to, miss their pack trigger and, get that 3-pack prize support or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Just like-
actually, I got to tell you, now that you brought that up, do you remember when they changed the rule to Path Exile?
Yes.
And like other switch effects? Everyone lost their shit at that. And I haven't seen anywhere near the amount of same feedback on the pack thing. So it's like actually kind of interesting that you pointed that up. But yeah, I do agree. I think we all agreed on this last time, and I think we're gonna agree on it this time too, is that it just stop trying to get your opponent.
Yeah.
It's just like if this is like if your way to win is your opponent missing their pack trigger or missing their Tabernacle trigger, you should probably work on some things in your game. Just like a pretty big hole.
I have gotten multiple wins in my career by people missing their pack triggers, so I can't really like say that I'm innocent in this, but it was more like they just missed their pack trigger. Like I didn't do anything. They just immediately untapped and drew, and I was like, you have to pay for that.
Right. So there's a couple other things that I wanted to branch into because of this. So one of the interesting things is because Summoner's Pact is a delayed paying your mana trigger, how do you feel about what happens when someone forgets their pack trigger, not intentionally, they just forget it, and they're casting spells and they're going through their turn, and then someone's like thinking on things and they're like, oh wait, we forgot to do the pact. and they just don't have any mana to pay for the pact, what happens?
Yeah, I'm not sure, right? Like, is that abusable? Can you wait for them to cast a card and then you're like, hey, they didn't pay for their pact?
Yeah, that's part of my concern. I don't know a good answer, so I wanted to talk to you guys about it because I'm legitimately unsure what the correct way to approach it is.
I would imagine is they would try to back up the turn,
Yeah.
and then so the only thing that's like awkward is like a situation where player A casts pact, player B, doesn't really think anything of it, takes their turn, passes back. Player A can't pay for the pact with what they have in play or whatever, say like an Azusa or something, and then 3 turns down the road they realize that like, hey, you didn't pay for your pact, and it's like, all right, that's like pretty scummy. Like, it's abusable, I guess, in that situation, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Like that's why I'm confused. That's why I'm concerned, because that's like one of those like weird spots where I'm not sure.
It's
what the
definitely
right
interesting.
answer is.
Like, it'll be interesting to see where the judge community falls, because I imagine that's like what's going to end up happening is like they'll decide like what the proper thing is. At least if someone does try to abuse this, like, obviously, like, this is a situation where you always call a judge kind of thing, and like as long as people are like, hey, you didn't pay for your pack, it's like, oh well, I die anyway. It's like, no, like, let's call a judge, you didn't pay for your pact kind of thing. Like,
yep. And that's actually a really good point, Brad, because that's actually catapulting into my next thing, which is call a judge in these situations, because this is one of those things that is slightly abusable. It is one of those things that someone can just kind of try and do over and over again.
Yeah, that's what I was to say. Like, where's the number for missed pack triggers until you get a game loss? Like, if it's your third one in a tournament, do you get a loss?
It's not a GRV, right?
But here's the thing: that's abusable if you just keep forgetting. You know what I mean? Like, you just keep forgetting, and then like every now and then your opponent's going to forget too, and you just get to kind of go through your turn without paying for it. Right? Were you going to get to that, Rudy? I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off.
No, you're good. That's exactly like you're basically like both of you are on the same exact path that I am. That I'm concerned that there is like that like there is some room for abuse, but I think why this is that's why it's so important to make sure you get judges involved with every like judge ruling. This is something that I feel like we talk about like every fucking time we have any sort of discussion on on any rules. It's always like, just call a judge. Stop trying to like solve problems by yourself. And I don't know how many times we have to hammer this, but I mean, we're gonna do this every single time. Every single time there's any question on rules, call a judge. Just stop trying to solve things on your own. Call a judge. It's always important. This is how things get tracked. People, I don't know how many times I need to say this, but warnings get tracked. So if somebody has a Summoner's Pact missed trigger warning every single tournament that they play in, that's easy to keep an eye on. That's something that they can check and that they can figure out and judges can move forward with. But if you don't say anything, who knows how many times that person gets to forget their pack trigger or whatever else they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's got to be a limit. I don't know. So, they did change a few other things, right? Like, I know that they changed, like, how some of the extra turns work, but it's, like, almost, never going to come up. And then I know they changed, what was it? It's no longer an automatic DQ if the game is decided in a way other than Magic. So it leads to less feel-bad moments for newer players when they're like, oh, let's just figure out who wins this. Let's roll a die or something. Right, or like if there's no intent, you know what I mean? If there's no like bribery kind of stuff, it'll all lead to an investigation every time. But it's not automatically you are DQ'd from the tournament. Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, get out kind of stuff. So it's like your first GP, like, I'm sorry, your first Magic Fest or whatever. And you like, you play something or your first PPTQ and you like say something and they're just like, oh, that's a DQ. And you're like, what? This is stupid. Like, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, like when I'm playing cards with my grandma, we want to know who wins. We don't just call it a draw, like kind of thing. So,
yeah. So, I mean, that is like kind of a nice thing. The turns thing is basically just to prevent people from sitting down and going, oh, I'm just going to wait as long as humanly possible because like I don't think I'm going to die in like these 2 or 3 turns. So I'm just going to wait to untap. So I'm going to be turn 1 and my opponent is turn 0. As soon as somebody says go, if time is called, as they're saying go, or all right, after they say go, then the other person is automatically turn 0.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm a really big fan. And I think that kind of like just covers like all the basic stuff, about KCI and about all the rules change. I think the cast is pretty big fans of everything, so it's really nice. Now here's the big one. Here's the fun thing that we get to talk about. This weekend there is a tournament in Indiana. It's in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah, there you go.
The first week standard, which is kind of really exciting. And first week standard is something that I really enjoy. I'm sure Tandon and Brad enjoy it on their own, but I'm always a massive fan. I love just like putting all these decks to paper and just building and playing and battling and trying to figure this all out. As soon as the set was spoiled, I made 12 different deck lists. Mm-hmm. I literally spent like the next like hour or two just building like sketches of deck lists, and I built 12 different deck lists because I just love doing this kind of thing so much. So I got to tell you, I'm really excited. There are a couple pillars of standard, or maybe some new pillars of standard that I'm looking at. I know I don't want to give away too much of my deck list, and Tan doesn't want to, but I'm sure we will be more than happy to tell you all about what we're excited about and what we think the new pillars are. And I want to start with an interesting one. And I think this one is possibly the one that has the highest ceiling. And I think it's Prime Speaker Vannifar. And I think this card, obviously like a reincarnation of Birthing Pod. Obviously, it lets you build like your deck in a really cool manner and lets you do like a lot of sweet things. But is it good?
That's the thing. So I've played around with the deck. I've played around with the card quite a bit. The problem I've had with it is multiple times I've untapped with it and activated it, and then activated it again the next turn, and I have not won that game.
Okay.
That's not good enough for me. If I build my deck around a card like that, and I get to activate it multiple times, this game better be over. Or like put me in a situation where like I feel strictly ahead. And like maybe I don't have the deck built right, maybe I don't understand something. Those are very big possibilities. I do think it's good. I don't know if it's like broken. And I don't know if it's like something I want to be doing week 1 is the other thing as well.
I agree that it's not broken.
Yeah. Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. But the thing is do you remember when Pod used to be in Standard?
Yeah, it was dumb.
No.
We also had Ponder. You also had like Ponder and all these other cards too. Like the format was just insanely degenerate.
Definitely, like this is like also a weaker format, but like I also don't remember. I remember the pod decks being good. I don't remember the pod decks being absolutely busted.
You had Phantasmal Image too.
Right. That definitely changed. There were like obviously like some nice changes where you could like crack your 5, go get your Sun Titan, bring back Image, copy your Sun Titan, bring back like another thing or another Image, copy your, like that was like kind of a cool play that you could do for sure. Obviously very powerful, but Standard is certainly weaker than it used to be. And the thing is like even though it's weaker than it used to be, is this? I mean, I think Prime Speaker. I agree with you, Tannen. I don't know if it's a week 1 deck because I think it's too hard to build a Birthing Pod deck with everything that's in tow and not knowing exactly what the format's going to look like. Because I got to tell you, RNA Ravnica Allegiance is just an extremely powerful set. And I think it actually shuffles a lot of what's going on and what we've known in Standard. And I think a lot of things are going to change. So I think I'm really excited for this kind of card, but maybe you're right. Maybe not week 1, maybe like week 2 and 3, it'll be really good.
Brad, do you have any opinions on this?
I believe that the card Prime Speaker Poop Soup is in fact Poop Soup, just like its name.
I mean, I just crafted 4 in Arena too, damn it.
I have a question for you, Brad. Did you come up with that, or did you ask Andrew Jessup for?
Listen, Andrew is he's actually, we've had radio silence. He's in Southeast Asia right now, so I am unfortunately all on my own.
Wow, that's gotta be scary.
It's weird, right, Brad? Because I'm all on my own. I don't have Brennan in my corner to tell me what's good in Standard either. It's like, do you feel as lonely and as left out as I do?
For the most part, I did have like a 3-sentence conversation with him the other night, and I was like, man, this is like so close to, a sweet deck list, but not quite.
And that was it.
Well, have you guys considered maybe just building decks on your own? Maybe that would help you.
Why would I ever do that?
If we built decks on our own, they would look like yours, and we'd just be in the same boat.
Let's take a look at my decks. All of them are great. What do you mean? Like Blue Eye Control, Mono Red, Black and Snake. Like, what do you mean?
I have access. I have a Discord full of terrible deck lists that I cannot wait. We have plenty of time on this podcast. I will go over every single one of these terrible decks.
You will not go over any of my decks. We will go over all my decks next week. That's fine. We'll go over all my decks, and then we'll talk about all the decks that you made, Brad, which is, what is that, 0?
No,
that
I
zero?
made,
You
I made
leech?
the
You
mono red
leech?
deck. I made the mono red deck on day 1.
No, you didn't. You didn't do shit. You
What do you
literally
mean? I will.
last season, standard season, you literally stole my deck, streamed it to everyone, so everyone knew what was going on. What do you mean?
That deck sucked.
That deck only sucked because
I would rather play Poop Speaker Vanifar than
that
Poop
deck,
Soup
that deck only sucked because you streamed it to everyone.
No, it's fine. You would have done terribly in the open regardless whether anyone knew about the
What
deck
do
or not.
you mean? Me, Max McVetti, and Austin Collins all had like 65 to 70% plus win rates. What do you mean?
Don't you bring Austin into this conversation. He's a
Cool.
minor.
Oh man.
Oh my god, I love Austin. Okay, fine. Prime Secret Vanifar, it's fine. Not great. I still think it's going to be a pillar of the format. Maybe if it's not a pillar of the format now, I think it will be a pillar of the format sometime moving on in the future. I think Tannen, you agree with that. Brad, maybe you're not so sold.
It's
on
obviously powerful. Like
Yeah, I so my problem is like when you untap with it, it's like good, not great, and when it dies, it's the fucking worst.
yeah, it's so bad. When you pay 4 mana and they kill, like they do something to it, and you're like, oh no, I just lost.
Yes. No, I totally get that point for sure. Okay. Next pillar.
You think Vanifar is a pillar? You're drunk.
It will be a pillar, I promise you. Feel free to quote me. Feel free to come back in a couple weeks when you feel stupid and you're like, wow, hey, have you tried this Vanifear deck? Holy, it's so good.
Listen, listeners, don't drink Rudy's Kool-Aid. Okay.
Listen, you have to test. I think it's good anyway. All right. Or I mean, fine. I think Absorb is also like one of these really good cards that like helps control a lot, changes a lot of things. How do you guys feel about Absorb?
I think Absorb is fine. It makes the mono red deck not as good, but still fine.
Okay.
Same.
Do you think the control decks just get much better because they have access to this kind of card? Or do you think
No, because you're not beating them on like raw damage. You're beating them because like, you know, you're attacking with shitty creatures over and over again. It's like if you absorb one, sure you like get one more turn, but like you like definitively beat them. You're not just like eking out a win and going under them, if that makes sense.
Okay, but what do you think about Absorb? Like now that we're starting to move towards like 3-color deck lists, do you not think that the 3 life that you gain is just a massive bonus?
I think it's like fine. I don't think it's like game changing. It definitely helps the control decks against the red decks. I think that's huge. Like giving your control like a card that literally counters a bolt and also gains you 3 life is insane. And it's like the ultimate feel bad. Especially when you have so many new bolts coming in. Because now people are just jamming like 12 bolts or whatever.
Yeah, that's actually the next thing that I'm going to talk about is like the red decks. But yeah, I maybe that's fine. I just think like Absorb kind of gives you like this nice little bonus to, you know, just gives you like that extra edge, a little bit of extra time. And I think when you're trying to play against all these burn decks, like Absorb, like literally just counting for double bolt is just like gives you enough time to like Teferi and take control of the game.
Okay.
I don't even know if Teferi takes over the game anymore, but
yeah, I also agree with that. Go ahead.
Like it really hasn't looked insane. Ken, what are your thoughts on the Absorb Magic card?
It's fine. Like I'm not excited by it. I don't think it's broken.
I don't think
I'm not even sure I want it in my deck on the draw against the red decks half the time because I'm like all the things I want to absorb are going to be in play by the time I get that mana into play, and I'm probably have to shock myself to do it. And I'd rather just cast like Moment of Craving on turn 3 or like cast down on turn 3. But
turn 1 tap land, turn 2 Moment of Craving your creature, turn 3 absorb. Like that's just that's like a pretty nice curve. And
yeah, you're probably going to be at 12 when that happens, and like they're probably going to have initiative on turn 4, just cast like a good card. I'm not saying it's bad. And like I'd probably just leave it in my deck because it does say gain 3 life on it. But in most of the times when I've played the classic like control decks versus mono red and standard lately, I have not wanted many of the 3 mana counter spells on the draw in those matchups.
Okay, that's pretty reasonable. That's like kind of interesting to know. So actually talking about that, the red decks, how do you feel that Skewer? How do you feel like Skewer kind of works in? To the red, like the red deck, does it make like the red deck absurd? Does it make it like significantly better, or does it just give the red decks a little bit of an extra edge that they didn't have before?
I do think the red decks got better, and not necessarily because of Skewer. Like, Skewer is pretty good. I think Light Up the Stage is very good and very, very powerful. And if you could find the right build with, like, however many Light Up the Stages versus, like, how many Experimental Frenzies kind of effects you have in your deck, I think you can definitely be pretty advantaged week one. I do think that this is the aggro deck to play week one in Standard now. I think the deck is extremely good. It's extremely streamlined because there's not much change going on to it, and the deck's just like already kind of there and existed. And you beat most of the other aggro decks as well. Like just having Chain Whirler in your deck and being able to like play a creature, shock your guy, attack with something, Chain Whirler your other thing. Like it's just so inherently oppressive to other aggressive and creature decks that it's just good enough. Plus, like if you have with all these people playing 3-color decks, they're playing a lot of creatures and less removal right now in the format. And I have died to way many turn 2 Steamkins lately than I had in the past.
Really?
Yeah.
I have been underwhelmed with the red deck. I played it in a league. It felt pretty rough. Like it's still so the only thing. All right, how do I? So it's like
Collect
the
your
red
thoughts.
deck in the format.
Yeah.
You still have like a bunch of pretty medium cards. There's a couple good ones, but it's not insane. And I think the reason why the red deck was good before is because it had like an engine of like experimental frenzy. Because like, yeah, you have a bunch of shitty cards, but like I have a lot of shitty cards, and now I can beat you because I just throw a mountain of shit at you instead of like a small pile. And like, I think Light Up the Stage is basically the same thing. And you still have your card quality goes up slightly, but not even by that much. And you can still like out card the red decks. And they're still relying on basically outcarding you, but their overall card quality is pretty low.
Okay, I also think I don't know. I agree that the red deck may be a tiny bit underwhelming still, but I think Light Up the Stage kind of changed a lot. It's kind of like a Red Thoughtcast I've seen it be compared to, and I really agree with that. The first time I cast the card, I thought it was absurd, like just absolutely bonkers at 1 mana. I think even at 3 mana, I think the rate is still good enough that it's fine. And I think a lot of people at first maybe didn't read the card the right way because I talked to some people about it and they just didn't realize that you can play your lands and it lasts until your next turn.
Right.
To like cast it, pass, untap, cast your 2 spells or play a land, and it's just like that just does so much for you. It kind of makes me want to build the red deck like very low to the ground, like a bunch of Flame Kelds and like 18 lands because you just see so many more cards now with Light Up the Stage.
No, I could definitely see that. That's one of the things Ross Merriam was talking to us about in our chat. He's like, I want to mess around with the red decks. I think Joe was also talking about it. I want to see how few lands I can play. They're like, play a league, cut a land, play a league, cut a land. Like, try it out. Like, just keep trying things out and see how low that you can go. And do you play Flame of Keld? Like, that's another thing. Like, do you play Flame of Keld instead of Experimental Frenzy? And I think the thing about Light Up the Stage is like, where is the floor on this card? And while the floor can be pretty low, it's always at least something, right? Like, you at least get something out of it. But when you're casting it for 1 mana while, like, progressing your board and, like, dealing damage to your opponent, that's when the card really, really shines.
Yeah, I've definitely really enjoyed the power level of the card, just being able to, as, like, a, like, cheat on lands, and then you just, like, play it on turn 2 or whatever, and just, like, have access to a second or third land drop, potentially. It's basically like a draw 2. So it does help the consistency of the red deck.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And like that's scary, right? A card that like helps the consistency of like one of the higher variance decks in Standard. The deck where like I found a lot of times with the mono red deck, if I draw 3 lands, my opponent is probably dead. If I draw 5 lands, I probably cannot win. Just like along those lines, like you're not going to draw enough to deal 20. If you draw 6 lands, like you're a huge dog to win your games. And so the thing that Light Up the Stage does is it kind of gets through your deck quicker. You get to kind of like use that mana more efficiently. You get to see more cards deeper into your deck, and you're going to find those extra spells that you needed to kind of finish the game off. It does kind of show what's coming to your opponent. They do get to kind of like play with more information, but do you really care most of the time?
Yeah, all of your cards just kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
So does it really matter? Yeah, you're just like, oh look, I flipped 2 lightning bolts. Oh, I wonder what's gonna happen next turn. It's a mystery. That's great. Okay, what about the Elvish Mystic deck? So we have Stomping Ground now, which is kind of a big deal. So now there's like access to like Naya decks. Now you have access to
Rug,
yeah. Teamer decks, and we have access to like things that we didn't have before. Jund is an option now. are any of these decks appealing to you? Are any of the cards good enough that make Llanowar Elves much better than it was before, or do you think Llanowar Elves is still about on the same level that it was before, where it's still just fine but not great?
I think it's really good a lot of times if you have another play and you do any kind of 3-drop on turn 2, or if you do 2 drops or a 4-drop on turn 3, it's been pretty good. I will say, like, what is it, Rhythm of the Wild, the one that, makes your creatures have like Riot and they can't be countered. I've been a little underimpressed with that card, just because like standard is pretty fast and like games get pretty decided by turns 3, 4, and 5 sometimes, and so like it hasn't had as much effect as I would on the game. I know Brad was playing with a deck the other night that had Gruul, what is it, Spellbreaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you were a big fan of the card, and getting that card on turn 2 is probably a big deal, right?
I've actually been kind of underwhelmed with it.
It looked good in the few games I got to see. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I definitely think Elvish Mystic is super good. I also think a big thing, and what we're probably going to see among all of these Green X decks, especially the ones playing blue, is like it in combination with Incubation Druid, I think is huge, because you finally have another like reasonable ramp card that also scales into the late game.
Mm-hmm.
So you can ramp into like Crassus or Carnage Tyrant
Vivian.
or like Finality or whatever. Like Vivian is huge. I think Vivian is still insane in this format.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of like higher end stuff. I've also seen like Hadana's Climb is super good with the stupid Druid and
Incubation
things like
Druid.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually a card that Llanowar Elves has like definitely helped the stock of a card go up to the roof, and Incubation Druid is Hadana's Climb has been kind of all over in the Bant and Rug decks, and for good reason. That card leads to some very busted things. Like, I had a game today where, like, turn 2, I played Incubation Druid. They didn't kill it. I played Hadana's Climb, but to counter the Incubation Druid, and then my second main phase, I cast a 3-mana spell. Or, like, just cast anything,
Yeah.
And at that point, like, you've literally spent 5 or 6 mana on turn 3, and they have to answer your Incubation Druid plus your Hadana's Climb. So your opponent's in a very... Yeah, plus whatever else you just played. So your opponent's in a really bad spot. So you can definitely leverage these cards, and like a lot of these draws are made even more busted by Llanowar Elves. And then sometimes you don't necessarily need it, but it's just a good thing to be there. Plus, when you put the cards like Hadana's Climb in your deck, it makes Llanowar Elf like an okay card later in the game. It's like a threat that's going to get the +1/+1 counters, and then you can just fly over and start killing people. Like little Llanowar Elf that made that big climb to the top of the temple or whatever it is that's on that card, and just flew off and attacked the opponent or whatever for like 6 or whatever. And it can do enough, because like that is the one bad thing about putting just a bunch of ramp spells in your deck. Like if you have a bunch of Llanowar Elves and Incubation Druids, like you top deck those late in the game, and they're pretty bad in that situation. But cards like Hadana's Climb and like more mana sinks, you're starting to see stuff that's getting better. Like what's the name of the ooze? It's like Myogenic Ooze or something like that. Myogenic Ooze. That card has impressed the hell out of me. I crafted 4 of them today on Arena. I've been playing it quite a bit. Llanowar Elves is another card that really helps there because it helps power it out, but its activated ability is triple green, which is like more hard to do than you think when you're having 3-color decks, because like you're having a deck that has this card in it, but also has like Hollowed Fountain and Plains and like Island in your deck. So like activating it multiple times on like turn, it's I think 4 mana. I think it's 1 green. So activating it multiple times when you have 8 mana is actually difficult at times. But what card's really good at activating it? Incubation Druid. And so these cards kind of all work together. They're putting +1/+1 counters on each other, and I think that's why you're seeing. I think the go-to deck this weekend that's going to look really good with Llanowar Elves is going to be Bant. I think it's like the most synergy, the most cool stuff that's going on. And you have like really good sideboard cards and stuff too.
It's kind of like Bant Mythic, right?
Right.
Just every card in your deck is just like a rare or a mythic. You have all these lands, very few basics. All of your cards are just ultra powerful. You have planeswalkers, and I mean Llanowar Elves is kind of like a basically a rare.
Yeah.
It's this 1 mana 1/1 that makes mana for you. The thing I do like about Incubation Druid more so than Llanowar Elves, because if you draw an Incubation Druid late, you're like, I guess this is fine. I'll just make a 3/5.
Yeah.
That's like never going to be terrible. Like it's always going to be like a nice thing to do. Where Llanowar Elves is always just like this 1 mana 1/1. The one thing I am kind of interested in doing at some point, I don't know if this is going to be possible because it sounds loose, but I want to play a turn 2 Incubation Druid. I want to play a turn 3 Hadana's Climb, and I want to put a counter on my Incubation Druid and then cast History of Benalia. That's something that I want to do. That it just seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've got a deck built that can do it, and it's not bad. You just kind of like go more of the token route, and it's not that it's really not that bad. You have like Tristani in that deck. Yeah, I literally just blanked on the angel's name.
Well, Angel of Grace.
No. I do want to play a lot of Angels. I got to sign my first one today, by the way. I got to sign my first Angel of Grace, so I'm excited about that. But there's a couple other things you do there. You can like Tristani in that deck, and Incubation Druid helps like power that out. So I mean, there's a lot of ways. Yeah, that's the biggest thing with us right now. We know that a Bant deck is going to be good in Standard. Like we just know. We're not sure how it looks. Like what direction you want to go, and that's the hardest part. Because like in some of them, we want to play the Explorer package. We want to have like Wildgrowth Walker with like Jadelight Ranger, and also because that just fits so well. And it's a lot better to be playing that on Arena right now because like there's just mono red everywhere, and like if you ever get that going, they just die.
Right.
But then like you play against some of the other decks, and you're like, these cards are kind of mopey. I wish I was just powering out like big, dumb, stupid, powerful things.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's definitely a lot of tension between playing like kind of shitty cards in your deck versus playing like very good ones, and obviously like Wildgrowth Walker into Jadelight Ranger is like only so good. Like it has a cap. There is a cap on how good those cards are, but maybe that's fine. Speaking of difficult decks, there's another card that I really want to talk about here because all of the decks that I'm seeing so far look so much fun, and that's Judith the Scourge Diva. And what kind of fucking name is Judith for like a legendary creature? Like I just don't understand. It's just like, oh, have you met Joe, the hero of Dominaria? It's just he's coming over here. Just
I see what you're saying. It's like a very just like
it's a very basic.
It's a very Earth-like name. Like all these other names are like Teferi and Tristani and like Domri, and then there's Joe.
Rakdos, Dovin, Kaya, Prime Speaker, Vanifear. Also, here's my friend Judith. I don't know if you've met Judith yet.
Judith sounds like
coffee, but she hates when people talk during movies.
Yeah, Judith sounds like she's like one of those little nice old ladies with like the hat on and carries her purse in both hands right in front of her, and she offers you a hard candy. Would you like some candy? Like she sounds like she's the lady that like still gives you $5 in your birthday card every year, like just mails it to you, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. It's not even $5. She writes you a check for $5. You know what I'm talking about? It's where you either have to do it with your phone or you have to go to the goddamn bank and check it and cash it and stuff. And so that's Judith. But anyway, as I'm not going to use the phrase that Bradley would normally say about this card, but this card, Judith doesn't mess around. Judith kills people really fast. I think this card is maybe not like format defining, but like kind of like archetype defining. If an aggressive deck can cast this card, you are playing for Judith. This card is very, very good, and it pairs well with a couple of the other cards that I really like to go along with it. I can't get the mana base right in this deck, but I liked a deck a lot that had Hero of Precinct 1. You followed it up with Judith, and then you followed it with Heroic Reinforcements, and that is an unbelievable amount of damage.
Yes, it should be noted, obviously, that Judith only works so well with tokens. Obviously the +1 is very nice.
Yeah.
Creature, so there is that little clause. So don't get too excited about like how insane that is, but it's still like a very good start. But obviously, if your opponent's like going, here's a blocker, here's a blocker, here's a blocker, like that play feels like it gets shut down like really quickly, and that's what I'm worried about. Do you think that's a thing that I should be concerned about, or do you think the deck is just so fast and so powerful that like that just doesn't matter?
So I think it's really fast and powerful. It matters if the mana base works out. Also, it has a natural prey in the format. Like, have you played that deck against the mono red deck? Have you been chain whirlered when you're playing the Mardu Humans deck? It's not a good feeling. That you actually probably just pick your cards up half the time when they cast chain whirler and stuff.
Oh my god. Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so like, because I was playtesting the deck a little bit on Arena, and I was just not having fun. Like, I was getting just actually crushed. But I do think the deck is good, and if mono red isn't as good in paper as it has been doing in like best of one, which is a thing that could happen. Like, let's say like there's a lot of mono red week one, kind of like last season, when Rudy and a bunch of people were doing well with mono red at the first open, and then it just disappeared for like multiple opens. And like, let's say that happens, then yeah, you're going to see these people start playing decks with like 1/1s for 1 and 2/1s for 1 and stuff, and like making a bunch of 1/1 tokens. And you'll see that happen, and it'll be playable. But if your opponent's going to play mountain into mountain, I don't want to be casting cards that are like 1/1s for 1s and stuff. Like, I don't want to be playing those. Brad, have you tried this deck out at all?
You mean Judith the Poop Soup Diva?
Oh God, that card is good, but the deck might not be.
Every time I played against the deck, it's just looked really mopey.
Yeah.
I think I lost to it like once when they on curve went like, they went like the 1-drop into 1-drop Legion's Landing into Judith flip the Legion's Landing and then like turn 4 heroic reinforcements me, and I was like, all right, that was cool and all, but yeah, I don't know. I think Chain Whirler is very, very good in this format. I consider it to be like one of the pillars, and playing a deck that just gets completely decimated by that card is like,
Yeah, so maybe it's something that we need to look at, like just like with Prime Speaker Vanifear, where it's a card that maybe isn't good week 1 when people are playing a lot of cards that are line up well against it, but maybe in the next couple of weeks, it might be pretty reasonable when people like start moving away from red, because that is the thing that could happen, right? Like as you just pointed out earlier, we played it a lot like in the first couple of weeks, and then that was it. It was just gone. It was just like was gone, and then Ben White's made a bigger version with treasure maps and Banefires, and that version was the only one that was playable, and the really aggressive version was nowhere near as playable. So maybe that's just what we need, is just like to wait. I can totally see that. I feel like there are a lot of cards that we're talking about and we're looking at that maybe aren't good now, but maybe will be good in a few weeks. Another card that I think kind of falls into that is Domri.
I'm not sure about that, but we'll see.
I like Domri a lot. Obviously, like I'm going to be a little biased, but like after playing with the card, I think the card's power level is just so high that I think it's just a matter of time before someone figures it out.
Yeah, I mean the card is definitely powerful. Like that's what we're saying about a lot of the cards in this set, and this happens a lot in Standard. Like I can think of multiple cards of the last few years that are like, this card is very, very powerful in a vacuum, and then it just never really saw play. Or didn't see a lot of play because it just didn't fit in anything that was good. Like the deck wasn't good enough to be tier 1, and so you're not going to see that card a lot. You've seen a lot of like really powerful draw spells and stuff, etc.
Context is like everything, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Like there's plenty of cards that we busted in other formats that were just basically unplayable at times.
Yep. Okay, that's like a good point. Maybe I'll just never get to play with Domri again, and I'm okay with that. But I'll be sad. I want to play with Domri again. I have a couple more that I want to bring up, but this is an important one, and this actually isn't a card from Ravnica Allegiance, and this is a card that essentially did not get a lot of help from Ravnica either, and that's Niv Mizzet. Niv Mizzet was definitely a format-defining card last Standard season. It was extraordinarily powerful. It was very good. It built a lot of different decks on its own. In fact, a lot of the Arclight decks kind of moved away from Arclight just to play Drace and Niv Mizzet because Niv Mizzet was just that much more powerful. Do you guys think Niv is still very good, or do you think the way that the format's shaping up that Niv just can't exist in its current iteration?
I would not be surprised if Niv Mizzet won the tournament. And I still think it's quite possibly the best creature in Standard and one of the most powerful things you could be doing. Everyone's trying out like the new, cool, flashy, sexy stuff, right? And it didn't really get help, right? There's no deck that got built because of the new set where you're playing Niv Mizzet that much. Like maybe some rug decks, but like you're playing creatures in those decks. And if your deck is just a ton of creatures, like Niv Mizzet's not shining. You know what I mean? Like you're not utilizing it. Because like one of the most busted things you can do with Niv Mizzet is like when you can start casting Opt with Niv Mizzet in play. Like when you're starting to cast cards like Opt and anything that draws cards, you're really doing it. And you're not putting in as much work with the card as you should be otherwise. I still think it's very, very powerful. I still think Blue-Red Drakes, if you get a good list, could be a very good card for this weekend. And Jeskai might be good. I don't know. I haven't played tested Jeskai. It's just like the thing is, I think one of the most played constructed decks, like the flavor it's going to get played the most, is probably going to be Esper because it's like the new sexy thing. When like maybe Niv Mizzet is still just King of the Roost,
Ooh, King of the Roost, like a dragon's roost. I like what you did there.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody caught on.
Rudy? Yes.
Brad, how do you feel about Niv Mizzet? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Like, obviously, Tannen is a big fan. Are you a fan of the Niv Mizzet? I know Niv Mizzet doesn't caw, but maybe...
How do you know that?
He caws in my heart.
Yeah.
I think dragons caw. That's just me, though.
So... I feel like the weird thing about this format is that we just got a new set that doesn't necessarily add anything to pre-existing decks, and it's kind of like what Tannen said, where like we basically just got a bunch of new deck archetypes and not really stuff to beef up other archetypes besides the ability to splash colors and things like that. And I think Niv's casting cost is still pretty prohibitive. And like Dan said, like Kaya's Wrath is like basically what everyone wants to play with Teferi nowadays, and Absorb too. But you could probably still play Absorb and Niv Mizzet. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hollow changes that.
It's weird. They just did the deck list dump for the first like
5-0s.
amount of 5-0s, and I believe there were 0 Steam Vents decks, like actual Steam, like blue red decks in the entire 5-0 dump, which is kind of interesting. But I think Drake's is probably still good, and whether you want to curve into Niv Mizzet or not, it's probably up to you. But there's nothing that really says that like Niv Mizzet isn't good anymore, and I think one of its hardest matchups was like the Adanto Vanguard decks, and I'm seeing almost none of those.
There's Chain Whirler everywhere. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a good reason. I don't know how I feel. I feel like some of the things that we were talking about before is just like all of these decks have gotten like it feels like every deck that we've talked about, every deck that we've discussed, all the decks that we think potentially could be built, all of these decks just feel very fast and they feel very unforgiving. And I feel like when you're trying to play a Niv Mizzet deck, you need a lot of time to set up. And I think one of the big reasons that the Niv decks aren't played anywhere near as much as something like Esper is because I think Kaya's Wrath is just like so important. And the best that the Jeskai deck can do is like Deafening Clarion and to settle the wreckage. And all these creatures just feel huge. Like Prime Speakers of 4, Hadana's Climb pushes creatures out of range pretty quickly. Steely Champion is a card that, is starting to see play again. Gruul Spellbreaker, for example, destroys the Jeskai deck on its own because they can't Deafening Clarion it and they can never settle you. So that card is just like so difficult for them to remove. And playing Lava Coil in your deck is not a great, like if you're playing Lava Coil in your Jeskai deck, maybe it needs to be rebuilt. Like it needs to be built in a different way because it doesn't seem like a great spot to be going to currently. So, I mean, based on that, I think that Niv is not going to be good for a while. And maybe it might not be good again for like the rest of the entire standard season. It just seems like it's so weak compared to what everyone else is doing at the moment. It seems too slow and clunky.
Okay, I can see that. But I do think that like there's probably some kind of deck out there that like turbos out of Niv Mizzet. Even with like, a Reclamation type deck where you get to tap out for Niv Mizzet and then say go and untap all your lands.
Sure, like Gross Violence to Niv Mizzet seems
awesome. Yeah, like
Also,
that seems really good.
I mean, Wilderness Reclamation, I think. I don't know if we're moving on to actual pillars, but like that card is so fucking good. Holy shit! And if you
I'm not happy
to slam Niv and say go, like holy crap, you just get your 6 mana. Like most of the time, it's like what the last format was. Like I have to play dive down or whatever and pray that my opponent just doesn't like play Eldest Reborn or some shit. And like, cross my fingers and hope I untap and then I 20 them. Now it's just like, I get to untap and I have all these counter spells and stuff. Like it might that probably is a good deck. It's just like the last thing I want to test right now because there's so many cooler cards.
Yeah, I think Reclamation might have been a mistake. Like the card in this set with like Nexus of Fate being a thing, Teferi already being a thing, like ways to make your lands tap for more than 1 mana. Like we have like Gift of Paradise type effects. Like I'm not a fan of this card getting printed right now. Like what were they thinking? Like I don't know. Maybe they knew something we didn't know or whatever. But
I feel like they have a lot of intelligent people doing it. Like I'm gonna trust them if they at one point they're like, this is a problem, we made a mistake. Sure, but I'm gonna assume that like the answer is there, or they know significantly more about the format than we do, and that like it's not a problem.
I was definitely going to say that. I feel like it's very hard for me to believe that no one at Play Design went, I'm going to play a Bant Nexus deck. It just seems like impossible to me. Unless somebody, one of the designers was like, all right, I'm going to put Wilderness Reclamation in the set, but I'm going to wait until the set's done and then shove it in there so there's no time to test.
Just Jace the Mind Sculptor it? Put it in 2 days before?
Yeah, that just seems like it doesn't happen anymore. I feel like after watching a lot, I feel like the Wilderness Reclamation decks are kind of cool, but like Mortify is in the set, Assassin's Trophy is in the set, Reclamation Sage is in the set. Like you also have to play like 4 Wilderness Reclamation in your deck, and that card just kind of does nothing on its own, like you need something to go with it, so you have to play like 4 like sometimes you'll have to play like 4 of like a super clunky card. Like Nexus is a little clunky, despite the fact that you have a lot of ways to build up your mana. It is a 7 mana spell. Expansion Explosion is the same kind of card where it's like kind of clunky and like kind of bad on its own. And when you don't draw Wilderness Reclamation, Expansion Explosion is like fairly close to unplayable. And Nexus is like maybe sometimes a little hard to get going. I mean, obviously there are a lot of really good tools in the format, but I don't feel like Wilderness Reclamation has been more busted than something like Incubation Druid. Like all the Incubation Druid decks, are popping up and they have a lot of good things going, and they're seeing a lot of success. And the Nexus decks haven't really seen a lot of success. And there's just no way in a million years that a bunch of people came to play on Arena and MTGO, and so many of them chose not to play Nexus. The deck is just so powerful that people are going to play it anyway, and they're just not. There has to be a reason for it.
I don't know. I'm still seeing that deck a lot.
I've barely seen it. I mean, I believe you, but I just have not seen it.
Like, I think so. It does increase like the opportunity for them to get like super big nut draws with Wilderness Reclamation, and
Right.
it makes their fail rate like a lot lower. Like if they have a Search for Azcanta and they have like 6 lands or whatever, they're probably just gonna hit every time and they're gonna go off. But like I think the secret to it is like just stopping them before it gets to that point, and you have to go under them. It's possible that R&D just like has it in their mind. Like I believe the philosophy now is like there always exists something to keep one deck from getting too out of hand, right?
Mhm.
So like in this case, it's like, yeah, we have this busted red deck, and it's like Nexus can never be the best deck, because then we will just like the red deck will rise and push it out, and we'll just have this like cyclical meta going on.
I mean,
So maybe that's like the answer.
we do have Spell
Right.
Pierce in the format, and I don't
Yeah,
know.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, every game I've played against that deck, if I've Spell Pierced them, they've died, like, every single time. But I've also had a clock, and like it's not always the easiest thing to do is like super, have like a good clock that's good enough to make them have to like feel pressured where they have to play into Spell Pierce and stuff. And like Negate is still good against that deck, but here's the thing: playing best of 3, they get to kind of like sideboard a lot, and then when they start, you start jamming 4 negates into your side from your sideboard into your deck, and like let's say they're playing the band one, and they just resolve a Lyra on turn 4, like you just died.
Kill it. You kill it with fire.
Fire!
Well, with what? You
Do you-
negate the Lyra? Is that what you're talking about? Like I don't.
Or,
Do you guys
I
want
mean,
to hear
it-
the sweetest sideboard plan?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that
that
I've
I've
seen?
format too. So is Cindervines. Cindervines is another card that's like probably insane against Nexus.
Yep.
Cindervines is very good against them. Now the coolest thing that I've seen out of the Nexus decks post board is not Lyra, in fact, but have you guys seen the card Wilderness Reclamation in combination with the 5 mana ooze?
Oh, that's kind of sweet, actually.
That is a powerful combination.
That's what I like to call a combo.
Another interesting thing is, while it's not the most insane card by any stretch, Lavinia is in the format, and Lavinia does cold Wilderness Reclamation Nexus decks until they get to 7 lands. So that is like a pretty big deal, I think. Is that because all these fog decks are not playing any removal, and Lavinia just colds that deck for a while. And all you need against that deck sometimes is when you're playing like this aggressive, like if you're playing like an aggressive white deck, or if you're playing blue because you have Lavinia and you're playing blue-white, that means you also have cards like Spell Pierce and Negate and Disdainful Stroke in your deck already. So not only do you have all these answers, they can't even like combo you very fast. They have to like take it slow.
Okay, I can see that. Actually make it somewhat relevant. There's still like, some other cards too. Like you can, you have Tithe Taker that can like tax their mana a little bit like on your turn, so they can't they can't like always be super mana efficient, because like that's the main thing is like, when they get to like tap out on turn 4 for Reclamation, say go, and then still do something relevant like draw 2 more cards, with Chemister's Insight, like that's a busted turn, like an actually busted turn. And when you have something like Tithe Taker, like maybe slowing that down by a turn, it might be enough for you to kill them with the mono white deck, or something like that. And then, like you said, Cindervines and stuff like that card's just good because it like keeps them from comboing off, or it could answer Reclamation. They're like, play Reclamation. You're like, all right, hold on, in your second main phase, kill that thing, before you get to untap with it. So you get to kind of like time walk them. The thing is, you have to leave mana up for that too. So, I do think there's answers for it. I don't know if that deck's going to run away with it. It feels super impressive right now because we've been playing a lot of Best of One, and I think a lot of things are going to change. I think Standard's going to get very interesting because if they did make it a rock paper scissors format where we're not just going to have one best deck, where we're actually going to have 5, 6, 7 choices of decks that are good, Arena is going to be amazing because it's going to be going to best of 3, and you're going to see people trying to figure the format out. Because here's the thing: if there is a best deck, it's going to be bad because it's going to get figured out real fast, and then there's going to be a lot of that deck. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope they got this right, and I think they did. This stuff looks great. There's a lot of powerful cards. There's a lot of different strategies that it looks like we can do that has a lot of powerful things as well. So I'm super excited. I will say this: it's adding a lot of stress to me for Indianapolis because I have no idea what I'm playing. As of right now, if you ask me what I'm playing tomorrow and I had to figure one out, I wouldn't know what to tell you. I would probably just play a Bant deck because it's the thing I've been doing the most games with, and I could maybe tell you half of my 75. I know the cards that were for sure going to be in there. That's about it. I'm there's Labor Elves. That's in there.
Yeah, I have Deputy of Detention. That card fucks. Knight of the Autumn. That card's pretty good.
Yeah, that card's impressed me by the way too, but not to talk about it anymore because I think we should. Yeah.
Deputy of Detention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that card's awesome. I've actually narrowed it down. I have 2 decks. I have 2 75s. I'm just going to play a little more with both of them, think about my game plans with both of them, and then figure out which one I want to play. I think I'm going to pick one over the other, but I really like both decks. So I feel very happy coming into this weekend. And it's been really exciting. One of the really nice things is a lot of times I've been working pretty much on my own. Last Standard format, I got to work a little bit with Will and Austin and a couple other people like Rob Stanley, and that was kind of nice. And now working with Nova for this new Standard has been actually really exciting. People have a lot of really good ideas, and we've really been putting a lot of work and effort into it, and I think that's going to show this weekend. So I'm super excited. I love new Standard. I love week 1. I love Indy. Before we move on, before we end the show, Tannen, we have to do something important. We have to talk about...
What are we doing?
Well, first thing is I'd like to talk about how Brad kept getting caught up on his words because he never talks, and so this is just a brand new environment for him where he's talking a lot. But also, we should never hear you talk. This is new and exciting.
Well, that's because I have a lot of things to say because you guys are big dumbs.
Big thumbs, okay. But food, Indianapolis.
Oh no,
we have to talk about this.
Noodles and Company.
I'm trying to give me a minute. I'm trying to remember. Go ahead and say your stuff. There's a place that we're going to dinner Friday night that is the absolute best. So go. I'm gonna message my manager about it right now.
If you're looking to spend a lot of money, there's a place called St. Elmo's. It's a steakhouse. It's very good. Otherwise, there is a sushi joint around the corner across the street from St. Elmo's. It's really good. I can't remember the name. If you like Noodles and Company, the most egregiously medium pasta place in the world, there is the Noodles and Company near that. There's also a mall. There's also a mall close by, right past the Noodles and Company, that has a full food court that includes Taco Bell. On the very upstairs, there's a mini golf place and an arcade. So if you die in the tournament and you want something to do, go play mini golf, go to the arcade. It's a lot of fun.
This is the place where Tilt is, right?
Yes, it's called Tilt Arcade, which is great.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Yeah, it's a fantastic name, especially
Tilt.
for Magic Grinders.
Yeah,
especially for Magic Grinders. But the place that I think that I'm going to, there's a couple places that are far away. I'm gonna try to find out the name of one of them so I can include it on the podcast. But there's an all-you-can-eat sushi place that's 20 minutes away. It's pretty good.
That sounds nice.
And there is.
I'm in.
There's an ale house.
That's the one I was just about to say. I just looked it up. There's Ale House Emporium, or it's Ale Emporium, and this had some of the best wings and pizza I've ever had in my life.
Yep,
one of the times I went to Indy for an event, we were there for I think 4 days. We went 3 of the nights to Ale Emporium, and I was not disappointed ever. So I should be there Friday night with everybody. All of Team Bacub or BCW. We're going to be there Friday night. So if anybody wants to come and hang out, get some wings and pizza, we should be there before the the store event thing that night, before the BCW challenge.
I looked it up. The sushi place is called Sushi Club. So obviously Sushi Club and Ale House are a bit of drives, but they come fully recommended. If you're looking for a place right outside of the general venue. Otherwise, there are a lot of really nice food places in the area. There's a nice little sushi place that's a little expensive right across the street from St. Elmo's. Both of those places are great.
Yeah, and so I think it's a good enough like list for everybody else. I mean, I add one almost every time I go. Like, I got to eat at some place in while we were in Boston. It was like a block or two away from the site, and it was like this little restaurant. It was amazing. We had some amazing breakfast. We went there both days. It was really funny. It was 2 blocks from the site, and I was Ubering because it was that cold. Like, I just could not make the walk or whatever. I was just dying and stuff. So. Yeah, well, I mean, the weather was insanely bad in Boston. It was like really windy, so the wind chill was like 0. Like actual 0. So it was just way too cold. But looking forward to Indy this weekend. Weather's supposed to be a little bit better than that. So I'm hoping that Team Bacub does well. I'm hoping the Team Avon, as I'm gonna start calling you guys. Hope the Team Avon does well.
Yo, that's a good name.
Yeah.
Oh, the Team Avon. Oh,
I'm gonna start calling you guys Avon. So
That's pretty clever.
yeah.
You know what? I'll give it to you, Tannen. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we all do well. Hoping that we put multiple people in the top 8 this weekend. It'd be nice. Maybe bring home a trophy. That'd be sweet. If we don't, it won't be me, but maybe somebody else. So.
Aww.
Yeah.
Well, Tannen, anytime you want to win a team open, you let me know because I'm.
Yeah, sure. I'll make sure to go get Brennan out of retirement, and then I'll play with Ross Merriam.
Wait, I thought you were trying to win, not get second.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that too. It was like I feel like the Brennan Ross thing hasn't worked out any of the time.
I mean, like you could say, like like all jokes aside, we still have the highest win percentage of any team. So I'll take I'll take that.
I'm gonna challenge this in Cincinnati. I will. We'll
challenge
see what
what?
happens after Cincinnati. But I believe that I will have a team after Cincinnati that may have a higher win rate.
What, you and the Jessup brothers? Are y'all reteaming?
Yes, we are 100% for top 4s.
Look, all I'm saying is their win percentage by themselves doesn't count. You have to add in yours too, Bradley.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we're a team. Okay.
I'm just messing, Brad. You're a great Magic player. I actually have no problem saying that you're better than me. I like to give you shit though. So.
That's because you're lying.
I'm,
say it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think that's about it for the show tonight. I'm actually getting pretty tired. We need to wrap this up.
I'm kidding. I love you, Tannen.
I know, Brad. I love you too. I send Brad dog pictures almost every other day.
Yeah, there was did you post the rose picture with Benny?
I have not posted that one yet today. I've got a couple saved up. I'm not sure when to post. Like I have that one. We got her an LSU Tigers jersey that like actually fits her. So we're like doing with that. We got her a raincoat as well because it's been raining uncontrollably here lately, and like her having to go use the bathroom is really annoying because she's like, if you've ever seen my dog, she's insanely furry, and so she gets like just covered in water and it stays in her fur. It's really annoying. Anyway, so super excited about this weekend. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Rudy, you're coming, right? I know for a minute you were like thinking about not going.
Yeah, I was considering not going. I've had a lot of like personal issues, but I am going to be going to Indy. I will also be going to Baltimore because my team is like pretty broken for Baltimore, and then after that, we're gonna have to see how these next couple of events go because I'm probably gonna need a break, both personally, mentally. I've been like pretty stressed. I've been basically putting together like all the sponsors and stuff for Nova and getting the jerseys and everything. So it's been like really stressful on me, and I kind of like need to take like a step back a little bit, which I think is like an important thing for like most people to do in anything, but especially when it comes to Magic when there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I can kind of feel you on that. Like I've seen it firsthand with Jim. When Jim put MGG together, he kind of like sacrificed his year, pretty much, like making sure everything got done, taking care of people like Brad and Kevin Jones and stuff, and making sure they got where they needed to go and made sure they got on the airplanes, which, as we saw, didn't happen very often when they needed to be there and stuff
Jim
like that.
Never had to micromanage me.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, no one believes that.
Yeah, no one believes that, but it could definitely be stressful. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But Tannen, where can we find you? If we wanted to find you, where can we do that?
All right. Yeah. If you wanted to. Yeah, Louisiana and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Now, if you wanted to find me, you can find me on Twitter at @TannenGrace. I tweet mostly about Magic, but there's some sports stuff in there too, and a few other things. I might randomly talk about a movie or a TV show or two, and I do post pictures of my adorable puppy, so you can follow me there. You can follow me on Twitch, just TannenGrace. I stream almost every day that I'm not traveling for a tournament, so there's not a lot of like Friday, Saturday, Sunday streams going on right now. Whenever there's an open going on. But other than that, I stream almost every single day. A lot of arena going on there, so tons of standard. I do still do some Magic Online. Usually use that for like Legacy or Modern when I'm doing stuff like that. And I do a little bit of coaching. So if you want to get a hold of that, just find me on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, or Twitch, and send me a message on there. Brad, if people wanted to find you or see your stream, where would they go?
You can find me at my house in Florida. That's where I stream. And yeah,
I hate you.
I'll be there.
I hate you so much.
You can find me on twitch.tv/BradBorigimos Enraged. And I stream basically every night, pretty late into the evening, or the wee hours of the morning or something. Is that how it's said? And especially the next couple days, I'll be streaming probably whatever 75 I end up on for Indy. So if you guys want a pretty sweet deck that's better than both the Tannins and Rudy's, you just pop in there. And you can also find me on Twitter at Brad Barigmos. And I think that's it. Oh, if you have any business inquiries, coaching questions, anything like that, you can reach me at thetanninggrace@gmail.com. That's the THE Tanning Grace, much like my co-host's name, at gmail.com.
No relation though. No relation.
Nope.
All right. Brad's deck sucks. If you're interested in watching him stream a suck deck, that is available on his stream.
Jesus.
That was a good one. But anyway, so if you're interested in finding me, you can find me on Twitter at @TheNotoriousBZA. As always, if you're interested to read my articles, it's CoolStuffInc.com. My articles come out every Monday. This week I wrote about my cards that I really like from this new set. Next week I'm going to be writing about some of Nova's testing process and some of the decks that we came to, but some of the things that we didn't actually just come to play. But I will post in a lot of deck lists there if you're kind of interested in how we approached it and what we were doing. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at GrindersCastMTG. You can also join the GrindersCast Discord. There is a link in our Twitter. There's also a link in Tannen stream, Brad stream, and my stream. If you head over there, !Discord or !Podcast will get you to that Discord link. It's free. Come join us. Hang out with us. Talk to us. Spend some time. There's a lot of fun people in there. We chat pretty much every day. We share memes. We share deck lists. People ask questions, and everyone is very helpful. And I'm really a big fan of our community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If you're interested in helping us monetarily wise, we do have a Patreon. So you can go ahead and check that out. It's patreon.com/GrindersCastMTG. If you do sub to us, or I guess become a patron is what I should say.
Yeah.
There is a special Discord channel for patrons only where you'll have a lot easier access to myself, Tannen, and Brad. And we also like to post our deck lists for our event. We'll usually do that on Friday. Sometimes we'll do it on Saturday, but you'll always get our full deck list of what we're playing in that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our bonus to you. If you're interested, also, if you're interested in coaching, it's a really easy way to contact us, all three of us, for coaching. Otherwise, you can reach out to us individually. All three of us do coaching. We all enjoy doing it. So if you're interested in maybe helping up your game a little bit, the three of us are reasonably good at coaching, and we'd love to help you out. But I think that's going to do it. That's episode 65. It's a lot of episodes.
It's a lot of episodes. I can't believe I've put up with you guys this long.
I've loved every minute of it. I love
me too. Me too.
And I'm very happy that we're back and doing this again.
We're back.
These several episodes have been so good.
Yeah.
I've loved all of our episodes since we came back, and I'm really happy that we're going to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't without the support of viewers like you. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Make sure you tune in on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud to check us out, or your favorite podcasting app.
Peace.
Caw!
Is that it? We're good?
Yeah, we're good. Hey, Brad.
We'll find somebody to host. Brad, are you going to start streaming?
What?
Are you going to start streaming?
No, I got to set up some ding dong stuff.
So you're like a way off of streaming?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to host somebody then.
Did you like my suck deck, Brad?
No, I thought that was stupid and low tier.
Hey, everybody that stayed around for the show, by the way, y'all are all awesome. We had over 40 people in here for a while. Y'all are great. I love every one of y'all.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me make sure I didn't miss something. Hold on. Where's my dashboard?
Who you hosting?
I'm not sure. Let me see if I missed something on my dashboard. Like if something happened. Hold on. Recent events. I guess somebody followed. LOL JTech. Thanks for the follow. All right. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go through and see who's streaming right now. Why, did you have somebody in mind?
No, I was actually looking to see if there's anyone I noticed.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing too.
Yeah.
If anyone in the chat has anyone you want to suggest, feel free to pop that out.
This is the Brad's waiting room. Yeah. I'm gonna host somebody, but then I'm gonna be watching Brad in about an hour.
Yeah, I will be doing.
This does get posted to YouTube. Yeah, this will be posted to YouTube, and also you can just watch the VOD as well on here. Because
Host Yanni, aka Yanni.
where? How many people? Oh, there he is. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
It's AKA _
Yeah, he's in my chat sometimes too. I like this guy.
Yanni is amazing.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, for everybody who watched, really appreciate it. Y'all are great. It's just AKA _ Yanni.
Yes.
Yep.
YANNIE.
No,
Yep.
Alright.
it's
No, it's YANNIE. Yeah, it's probably different on something, but yeah, there we go. All right, everybody, thanks for watching at home. We love every one of y'all. See you on YouTube. See you on Twitch. All that stuff. But have a good night.